Birth and death records are not the only records available to help you build your family tree. City directories are nearly as awesome as census records for tracing your ancestors between their birth and death dates. But chances are you're not taking full advantage of these resources, which needs to change today. Howdy, my name is Devin Noel Lee, and I want to help you enjoy the journey of climbing your family tree and connecting to the past. To do that, we have to talk about my favorite genealogy record, city directories. So what are city directories? Picture a telephone book and you have a good idea of what the alphabetically arranged residence listings do. Some areas produce city directories annually, making researching your ancestors easier than census records, which happen every 10 years. Since these books were commercially oriented, you will see information a merchant might find valuable about a male and female adult in the city. This data may include an individual's address, occupation, spouse's name, and the focus of today's video, the other helpful facts. Let me share with you 4 things you don't want to miss in city directories so that you can carefully leverage these genealogy resources. While we love to view the entries with our ancestors' names highlighted, the first thing we want to do is make sure we understand what the line is saying. Look at this snapshot. Do you know what all the abbreviations mean? Experienced genealogists realize that they can never assume anything. Always look for an abbreviation guide to ensure you do not confuse yourself. If you're on Ancestry, click on the film strip view. On other online platforms, they have thumbnail grids. If your digital city directory has a quick glance option like this, use it. The abbreviation guide is typically towards the front of the list of names. However, that doesn't necessarily mean the front page of the book. So I will jump to image 2, since image 1 is likely the front cover. Thankfully, I landed on this book's index, but I can use the film strip to navigate to something similar if I weren't so lucky. I can now navigate to page 32 and 33 in this book. I can see the relevant abbreviation this book uses. For instance, ENG stands for engineer. I'm glad I checked out the abbreviation guide because R sometimes means rear house, not resides or rooms. This book also has abbreviations for names of people and names of streets, businesses, and schools. For DGH, we see that it stands for Denver General Hospital, but UCTU is not identified. Once again, always search for the abbreviation guide to ensure you don't infer something incorrectly. Some books have recognizable abbreviations that do not necessarily need guides. One of my favorite discoveries is clues to your ancestors' previous residence. Be advised that these clues do not appear in every city directory. However, in the Cincinnati, Ohio City Directory of 1839, many entries will say NJ, MD, NH. What do you think it means? As it turns out, these are state abbreviations for the location the person named in the city directory lived before coming to Ohio. How cool is that? Have you seen these clues in city directories? If so, please leave a comment. Unfortunately, I find these entries pretty rarely. Be advised that while this location may be the person listed in the city directory's birthplace, you will need to validate this hypothesis. It could just mean where they resided before moving to town. Publishers often produce city directories by canvassing an area about a year before the printing the book. Some city directories leverage a previous production as the starting point for the subsequent year's books. Shortly before printing the book, the publisher may have done a final canvassing. At that time, they would add a removals and corrections section instead of retypesetting the entire text. This section provides clues about when an ancestor moved away from the location. It may also correct inaccuracies from a previous edition. Another valuable section is the additions. This information may help you know when someone moved into a region, such as Salem, Massachusetts. I love digging deeper into genealogy records to learn about the world in which our ancestors lived. We can do this by paying attention to a few things that may or may not list your ancestor by name. Near the front of the book, you can find rich details to understand the amenities of your ancestors' community. As a result, you may better understand their decision to live in that area. Or better yet, this data can help you write an awesome family history by providing setting details. By the way, did you know I have a second YouTube channel? It's called Write Your Family History. It will help you do what the channel name says. Check it out. This example shows the population at the last census and some other population facts. Notice the page has details about climate and hospitals and educational institutions. So many rich details are on this page and the pages that follow. You can begin to visualize the town in which George Teller lived. Many city directories will also identify chief officials and leaders. Notice when I attempt to hover over May Hines as the clerk and recorder on this page, no highlighting happens like it does for other names. Likewise, when I hover over her name as an election commissioner in this right column, you'll also see no highlighting. If you click on the index at the bottom of the page, you will see many problems with the OCR renderings. H.M. McNiff Auditor W? That's not correct. One of the main problems you'll notice is that May Hines' name does not appear in this list. So what's the point? First, you might miss your ancestors' community involvement if you do not navigate to these pages. Relying solely on a searchable index is rarely a good idea. Second, you can benefit from this section even if your ancestor is not listed on these pages. These details will help you add social history to your family story. For example, after learning the mayor's name, further research may reveal their involvement in many scandals. Or you may find the names of church leaders and school leaders who interacted with your ancestor. By reviewing these pages, you can add characters and context to your ancestor story. Finally, let's talk about advertisements. Actually, before we talk about how to take advantage of the ads in the books, let's first discuss some of the ads you will find. Beginning on the page for George Teller, you'll notice a few things as you zoom out from his name. Scroll up a bit and you will see the Telex Hearing Center. Notice how this entry is larger than those around them. For instance, the Tele News Theater. It's not as large. However, the telephone answering service is larger than both. These are advertisements within a residential listing. If your ancestors' listing is larger than others on the page, then they paid for that enlargement. So now you know that their business wanted to stand out in the listing, even if they did not take out a traditional ad. If you zoom out farther, you will see ads around the edges of the pages. You might get lucky and see your ancestor's ad on the same page as his name. But here's a better research strategy. Look for an index to advertisers. In this book, the index appears in the front. Under the entry for Disserich Furniture, notice that the ad will appear in the left side of the margins and on page 64. What does that mean? Well, throughout the book, you will find their ad in the left margin, and the first entry appears on page 64. Another advertisement section includes the business directory. Now, George worked for the J.J. Monahan Company, Inc. And I did a little research and found out it sells hospital supplies. In the hospital supplies section of the business directory, I do not see the businesses he worked for in these entries, and that's too bad. However, I do see one for Karen Hotel Supply Division. They have a notation that says to look at page 70 of the Buyer's Guide, which is another section in this book. And now we can see that Karen supplies food service equipment. Compared to others on this page, the size of this ad lets you know how well the company is doing, or at least that it felt it needed to pay more than others, or less, to promote their business. So what's the point of looking at ads? For one, if your ancestor's name appears in the ads, pay attention to what their business sells and its location. Also, make a note of any business partners. This detail may lead to more genealogy research clues to investigate. If they are not owners of a business, do the same investigation for the companies where your ancestors worked. Again, you can learn a lot about the potential prosperity of the businesses through their ads. If your ancestor or the businesses they worked for does not appear in any ads, notice the wares and technology offered while your ancestor lived in the town. One thing that struck out to me was a hearing aid company, but you can see a number of other services being offered at the time where George lived in this town. Take time to dive into city directories, which appear on Ancestry, MyHeritage, University Special Collections, Genealogy Society libraries, Google Books, or even local library pages. You will thank the stars when you hit the jackpot for finding your ancestors and their relatives in these books. If you liked the video, please remember to like, subscribe, share, and leave me a comment. If you really like it, then check out the video descriptions for our FHF channel memberships and websites for even more genealogical training.